Hi, I am your host, Brent Feldman, and we are back with another episode of Mix and Matchbox. Today, I am joined by Kevin Dean. He is the president and CEO of Manobyte. Hi, Kevin. How's it going?
Hey, Brent, it is going good. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to jumping in the questions here. I'll start out with one that's pretty straightforward because I was checking out your educational background, and and you have quite the background here. WGU, Villanova, Harvard, MIT. How did all this bring you to doing Manobyte?
It's very interesting. I come from a family of educators. My grandmother went to Howard, so historically Black college, a long time ago. And so education has always been an important thing in our family. And so, I don't know, like, it's just one of those things when you grow up around environments where people are always thinking in a different way, that kind of just gets put into your DNA. And so, I think when I went to school, my focus was computer information science. And the things that we were learning were all around technology, data, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence isn't new. I studied it in school. And I think that, that put me on a path where I really was able to go to school to get into the profession that I am in now, which that's very rare. And that's kind of led me down this path where, I've always been a tech junkie. So, and not from the standpoint of tech for tech itself, but understanding how do you leverage technology to solve big business problems.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well, actually, I noticed that you also have experience in, healthcare organizations and a degree in healthcare administration, and then you also have training in data science. So these are
Yeah.
all kind of like interesting, disparate things to put together. This is actually just more curious about your feelings on healthcare as you spent, a little bit of time there of like, as that sort of industry that seemingly has tons of data, how do you think that healthcare seems to continue to stagnate and get more expensive and be challenged by care delivery, even though they have the wealth of data in front of them?
Yeah. So, healthcare is a big system, and there's just so much that is tied in it. And I believe that in order to make progress, there's so many things that have to happen. And it's just a big ship to turn, right?
Mhm.
And there are lots of pockets within the healthcare system, and I say that intentionally, that are trying to do things that bring about change, but it's just too big of a system or problem for any one person to handle. And even though like what looks like on my resume and what I've done doesn't look connected or tied together, it actually is. So when I was in the healthcare system, one of the projects that I worked on, this was during when President Obama got into office. There was a project, again, data-based AI technology-driven project called Prometheus, which was designed to help look at how insurance costs was tied to healthcare delivery, and to see if you could be able to score risk, to be able to automate claims, and to get rid of different things within policies that shouldn't be there. And so that was kind of a project that I worked on early on, and that kind of tied together. And from that project, that led me to what was called the innovation systems within the healthcare organization. And there's a lot of, and people don't realize this, like you've got within healthcare systems, lots of innovation offices where doctors and others are trying to come up with new business opportunities to help bring out delivery of care. And so one of the things that I was involved in was I worked in the innovation center to help bring about solutions that doctors would come up with and say, okay, you come up with this solution, here's how we actually take this to market, here's the plan, here's what you need to do with it. So that kind of got me, I'd already been thinking about an entrepreneurial space, and that just kind of was one of those things that kind of helped me think, yeah, like I do this all the time. This is kind of in my blood. I should just be out doing my own thing. So they kind of all led to similar roads, right? So it was kind of neat.
Yeah, that is cool. I feel like actually that is the joy of being able to like have the podcast and be able to ask some of those questions. Sometimes, people take a really interesting weaving path to like, wind up where they're at or where they're supposed to be, and so that's why it's great to hear about the journey just as much as where you're at. But
Yeah.
actually, maybe speaking of that, you've run KJ Dean Enterprises as well as Manobyte for almost a few decades in total. And I'm taking that from, the dates that I was seeing there. So with plenty of data and AI at your disposal, how are you kind of putting that information into your own business?
Yeah. We're always looking at how to continually leverage data to drive results for our customers. And so on a regular basis, we are doing internal training sessions. We build our own systems to operationalize how we do work. And literally right now, which I think every business owner is thinking about it or should be thinking about it, is how do we continue to leverage AI agents, to speed up the way that we deliver solutions to our customers. Being in the services business, most service businesses have very low profit margins because it's a people-based business. And so we've been thinking about how do we use agentic AI for the past 18 months to make ourselves better. And then we also take these agents that we build for ourselves and we make them publicly facing so that others can start to leverage these. So, currently, we've been an AI agent company from the day that AI agents were out. So there are very few companies that actually build AI agents. So if you were to Google AI agent building company, and this is May 20th, 2025, I'm saying that intentionally, right? It's for you and your listeners, because if you go out today and you try to Google, I'm saying Google intentionally too, like an AI agent company, like they're going to come back with apps. And there are this beginning of agent building apps that are coming out, but very few companies that actually build agents for companies. And we're one of the very few companies that do that. It's so rare right now that I actually put into ChatGPT, what is an AI agent company? And it said to me, it's too soon to define this category. This type of company doesn't exist, right? And so May 20th, 2025, agent building companies didn't exist, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And we've been doing this for, 18 months.
Wow. Well, cool. Can't wait to dig into some of these next questions then, because I think really it is the interesting thing, and where I think a lot of things are going definitely are being shaped by AI and definitely agentic AI too. So, I guess we've all heard that basically businesses will be reshaped by either AI, either augmenting or fully replacing processes within an organization. What part of this prognostication is important for people just entering, sort of like the sort of realm of AI? Is it, what's the important thing for maybe either business owners or of small enterprises or larger enterprises to keep in mind as, everybody is saying it's going to change everything? Big question.
I'm sighing because this is a very interesting answer. And I think that companies just started coming out so to speak, in the past month and saying what they've been thinking and doing in the background, but were afraid to say.
Mm.
So agents and AI will, yes, augment the work that people are doing, 100%. AI agents will also replace the work that people are doing. And every company is thinking about how they can leverage agentic AI to be more profitable and to reduce the size of the human workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the facts. No one likes to hear it. It's scary. There's a lot of implications to it, but that is what's happening, and it's true. And so the question is, I'm going to start with companies. What should they be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Every company has to start thinking about how do they leverage AI and agents in order to make their company more efficient, optimize it, and be scalable, and to be fit for the future. So every company needs to think about leveraging AI to enhance the way that they're doing work. New companies, entrepreneurs who are coming into the space, they need to come into it being AI first, meaning that you should be able to say, how much can I do with AI and an AI agent first before I start thinking about the number of people that I'll need. I think you have to be AI first. And then the question is, what does this mean for individuals? Okay, so it means this. I'm going to repeat the phrase that is out there. And I think that there's some truth to the way that people are saying this, and people were saying this in a different way with a different meaning to, lessen the fear. But I think now the fear is there and the fear is real. People were saying AI isn't going to take away jobs, but people who know AI will take away jobs. And I disagree a little bit with that. I think that was just a way for people to soften the blow, because AI is going to take away jobs. What do people need to think about? One, don't go out and try to get a degree in AI and, large language models or I think we're past that phase. And so the need for that type of thing isn't going to be required, right? There's only so much that can be done in that space. And you're going to have the large companies, OpenAI, who they're going to own that space and they're going to provide it to others. And there'll be the big five of, those large language models that are out there. What people need to be thinking about is gaining deep industry knowledge. That is going to be the most critical skill, right? I need to have someone who really knows, let's just say, pharmacy, right? I need someone who really knows everything about the pharmacy world. Or I need someone who really knows everything about the agricultural world. Or I need to know somebody who knows everything that there is to know about, metal making, right? People who have deep expertise are going to be the most valuable people that are out there. So the phrase, the riches are in the niches, is never going to be more truer as we move forward, because there's going to be a wealth of general knowledge that everybody has access to. But that deep domain knowledge is where everybody individually and as companies will gain and add value. So even companies need to think, how do I truly add value moving forward? Because it's no longer going to be in the general knowledge that you used to hide, right? Now everybody has access to that.
Yeah, that's cool. And definitely I could see that that depth of expertise leaning into also them having experiences too that, AI is literally unable to have,
Correct.
leads to additional knowledge, practical knowledge that can be, leveraged. So that makes a lot of sense. Cool. Well, I must say that, this is maybe on the flip side of it, of like, I was listening to an episode of Swimming with the Sharks podcast. And it could, I think it was mentioned somewhere in there that there are situations where it could be premature to layer in AI into organizations. And
Yeah.
I have to assume that has some subtext to it. But what are the signals that are either, a business is ready or not ready to start layering in AI tools or components?
Yeah. The riches are in the niches, right? And so what I mean by that in this context is that companies have to have unique data sets that differentiate themselves in order to be successful in this world moving forward. And if you don't have the right data, then layering on top of bad data, the wrong data, data that's not unique, is not going to be valuable to your organization or to anybody else. And so that's kind of what we mean by it's premature to layer AI into an organization if they don't have a good unified data program, if they don't have good data processes, if they don't have leadership aligned to say this is how we're going to bring value, then AI is just going to be pointless. Like you're not going to get any value out of it.
Cool. Okay. All right. Now, as a follow on, what are the steps basically for people to get to that point? In general, like how do they look at their data and have that analysis? And actually, is it even a real challenge for people to be kind of agnostic and looking at their own data of understanding, do I have the right thing in front of me?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And so, really, what they need to do is like they need to understand what data do I have, where does it exist, is it what's the quality of that data. So those are the three things that they've got to look at. And then once they understand, okay, we have this type of data, right? Um, here's where it's at. Um, Quality means like, is it complete, right? Is it accurate? Is it up to date, right? Is there duplicate information that conflicts with each other? Like, all of those are things that like go into the quality of your data. Then once you understand those three things, you're going to then come out with an analysis of where's my knowledge gaps,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once you understand where your knowledge or your data gaps are, then your job is to go in and fill in those gaps in your data, the gaps in your knowledge. It's a big project, it's a big initiative. And to your point, yes, most companies probably don't have the skill set or the mindset in order to do this analysis on their own. That's where companies like Manobyte or other companies that are out there can help businesses analyze their data, understand the quality of it, and then be prepared to move forward with, in this AI era.
Yeah, that's great. As you say that, what's ringing true to me or feeling like it is that this would apply in any other kind of data sense. The root of the question is definitely, is AI driven and where can I leverage AI? But basically, like you wouldn't take a survey result of 3 people and try to apply those results across a large group of people. Like, what is the veracity of the data? What's the sample size? What are you asking them? Are you even asking the right question? So it really comes back to the root of like the data being critical to, apply future technology or additional, sort of learnings too, potentially.
100%. 100%.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, from an operations and especially manufacturing perspective, things like, Lean and Six Sigma have, kind of ruled the conversation for like a long time, understanding these kind of like, process methodologies. But how does AI change the nature of these systems? And is it helping just refine those processes with, more data or info, or is it fundamentally going to change completely?
That is an awesome question. So, I have a background, worked in a couple of manufacturing organizations, so big into lean, big into Six Sigma. And I've taken those fundamental principles with me, and having done some studying at Harvard, I'm a big Norton and Kaplan advocate. And so, in everything that we've always done, we've always applied the strategy map principle.
Mhm.
And the strategy map principle is a core fundamental element within Lean and Six Sigma. And so one of the things that you do in a strategy map is you look at what's called, the business perspective, right? The financial perspective. Then from the financial perspective, you look at what's your operational perspective. Then from the operational perspective, you look at, well, the market perspective, then the operational perspective, and then you look at the internal perspective. And all of those have to align, right? And so we think about it the same way when it comes to AI, with just a little different twist. We think of it as current, right? Because it's constantly moving, constantly changing. So you've got to look at what's the financial current. And that means, how am I going to leverage data? Because AI really is all about the monetization of your data. And not that you're selling your data, but you're using data in order to come up with a value proposition that you can deliver to your audience. And so you have to understand what is that financial perspective or current that we need to tie to. Then after that, you think, okay, this is our financial current. Next, I need to think about, all right, then what's my operational current? What do we have to have in place in order to take advantage of and to get to that place? And so, do I have the right people in place? Do I have the right tools in place? Right? How are we connecting to our data and making it accessible and all those things, right? All of that happens in that operational perspective. Then you've got, your human current, right? Making sure that you've got the right amount of people doing the right things in this era, and the internal perspective of training people, of making sure that they understand how to use the right tools and the right skill set, because within an organization you have different capabilities that are required in order to operationalize all of this. And so all of those things have to really fit together in order to really make it work. So lean is important, and we think that, in my mind, one of the most important concepts from lean is Kaizen, right?
Mm,
Continual improvement.
yeah.
That is so needed right now, because we're literally doing 3-month sprints with everything AI right now.
Mhm.
Like anything that comes out now, 3 months from now, it's going to be completely different. And I think that it's going to be that while for the next couple of years, because as these new models come out, these new iterations, these new tools, this new functionality, things get better. Like, we can't just sit back and wait like we used to and say, okay, here's my 3-year plan. Like, things are just moving too fast. And so that Kaizen, having these, OODA loops, continually orient yourself, observe, decide, and act, are key in order to be successful. So I think those principles that you find in Lean and Six Sigma are fundamental and key to being successful as you move forward with AI. And not just in the manufacturing sector. I think everybody should be applying those principles.
That's great. It still underpins everything, and it's definitely still applicable, and maybe to your point, yeah, critical. Cool. Okay. Inside of companies, sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out where to implement AI, what makes sense, what will matter, but how do you lead these and this actually comes to me because like I know there's a company in the local area that saying they had some AI demos and that they would show them to people, and then people would have that light bulb moment and go, oh, this is what we could do. But how do you lead brainstorming sessions in order to get that kind of light bulb moment of where people see the possibilities of AI?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing where people are doing demos, right? And I think that the demo approach had its place. I think it had its place because people weren't really sure, you know, a year ago what it really was and what it can really do. I think now everybody is seeing a lot of what it is and what it can do. And so what we like to do that is different, because we don't think it's about the technology, because the technology is going to change over time. Um, Companies come to us when they are stuck in growth, when they are trying to figure out what to do next. They have true business problems that they haven't been able to solve. They've got data silos. They've got real business problems, right, that are keeping them up at night. I don't think the truth is people are not saying to themselves, "Oh, what, can I use AI to make a pretty graphic?" Or, I mean, that they are staying up late at night because they have real business problems.
Mhm.
So our business approach is help them, show them how they can leverage AI to solve those business problems, right? Because anything else, it really is kind of like a dog and pony show that's going to fall flat. And
Mhm.
that's where I believe that a lot of companies have went out and they've tried to bring in AI solutions, but because they haven't focused on the core business problem, it just falls short. And so we don't try to go in and say, "Oh, look what AI can do." We actually take the other approach of saying, what are the true business problems that you can't get past on your own, that you've been struggling with? Okay, let us take those problems and show you how AI can solve those business problems. And we're going to solve those business problems. We're going to solve a small piece of one of those real business problems for you within 30 days.
Cool.
Right? And so now the proof is in the pudding. We've solved a real business problem that companies have today. So it's and there are lots of places where we can start, right? I think a lot of companies, they start they can easily start with customer service. That's an easy one to solve, right? And so we can show them quickly how they can solve customer service issues. And once they see that, it really, like, okay, this solved this problem. What's the next problem that we can solve? The other problem that we help people with is internal challenges of knowledge gaps, having different skill sets of employees who don't have access to the same information because of their experience. That's another problem that we can easily come in and help people solve. Um, and that's the approach that we take. It's not about the demo. It's, can we get in and show you within 30 days how we can solve a true business problem that you're facing today?
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, here's maybe the most fun question for you, and especially as like you're deeply involved in agentic AI, but I'm excited to ask you this one. But I asked this question actually of another guest who's talking about AI as well. And what's interesting is agentic, kind of moves forward. There's a good chance that we'll not only have AI agents, teams of AI agents, but also what if it progresses to managers of AI agents? And then where does it stop? You could build out an entire workforce, a team, a hierarchy. What does that look like as we grow AI agents into a workforce in and of itself with layers and hierarchy?
Oh yeah, that's fun stuff. And it's not what happens if, because it's already happening.
Ah,
It's already happening. So I'll give you a case study of a company that I think the easiest one that people can get. and this is just one example because this is happening in various layers, is developers. So there's an organization, they have about 100 developers, right? Large organization. They provide national services, lots of developers. They are already using agentic AI to go through, write code, refactor old applications, provide network support, data maps, and all the things that were needed. And they're going to go from being, having 100 developers down to 10 within the next 18 months.
Wow.
Right. With the core job is to have these 10 people managing the AI, right? So they're the ones that are checking it, making sure that it's right, validating, right, and providing the instructions, right? And that's happening. I think I use that one because it's easy for people to see and people know that, but that's happening in all forms of business, and it's happening relatively quickly. Just to prove this out, Workday, they are the largest employment HR company. Most Fortune 500 companies use Workday. They've already rolled out what they're calling the agent of record, meaning that they're building solutions to allow people to onboard, to evaluate, onboard, give them the right tools, give them the right access, give them the right security, give them the right job roles and description, then offboard them, right? The whole process that you see in HR for people, Workday has already built out the solution for that. And they've already started rolling that out, right? And so this is not theoretical. This is really happening right now. And so companies like ourselves, like Manobyte, we're building agents that perform specific tasks. People will hire those agents to do a specific task, but they have to fit within the context of the company structure and what they're doing. And they have to have, just like a regular employee, they've got to be given job descriptions. They've got to be trained. They've got to have the right access, right, and tools. This is what you can access. You can't access this, right? Here's your policies, right? All of that has to happen for these agents, the same skill sets, the same process that you have for your human employees. You have to have the exact same things for your agentic employees, your non-binary employees, right? So, and this is not theory. This is literally happening today.
Yeah. Wow. And really just applying the same sort of facets, different construct, different, environment, but, same principles apply.
100%.
After all of that, I've got a relatively easy one to end on.
This has been fun.
Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know I was looking forward to some of these questions here. So I really on this last one though, I know outside of work you're a conservationist. And in your opinion, what are ways that you see how we could use data and AI to start changing the nature of the conversation? Put more things in action, or maybe improve our planet's future outlook.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I'm a conservationist, but I definitely love this planet that we live on. And I think there's some beautiful things. There's a ton of beautiful things about it. Our company, Manobyte, it gets its name from, my love of the ocean. And so I think that I'll say this, I think some of the problems are too big for us to handle on our own. But I think one of the things that I'll tell you, one of the things that I've been playing around with. So I live in Tampa, Florida, and I've been using AI to say, hey, what do we have to do in order to clean the bay, to make it a prettier place, right? So when we're out on the boat, the water's black and it's ugly, right? Because of all the things that are in it. And so I've learned a lot of things about things like aeration and how to sift things off and all these other great things that could really help to keep the water nice and clean and pure, right? So for everybody's enjoyment. And I think that they're little things. And so I would say that a lot of what I've been seeing lately is AI now gives people the ability to have knowledge they didn't have before, right? And so I think that if people just take some of their time instead of, researching what's going on TMZ, right? Spend some time figuring out, what could I do personally, right? And just little things will help. But I think the problem is much bigger than, there's just bigger things at play. But everybody can, do what they can to make this planet a lovely place for a very long time.
Absolutely. I hope for the exact same thing. So, on that note, that was my last question for you. Is there any, shout out to Manobyte, your podcast, anything else you want to put out there?
Yeah, this has been so fun. We've had a great time. And so if you want to continue the conversation, we'd love to, like you mentioned earlier, come and check out Swimming with Sharks. We get out on the boat and talk about AI. And so just come join me on the boat on our podcast. If you'd like to, get your company more information about, how you can start getting agents within your organization, check us out at manobyte.com. And, let's just keep the conversation going. Love it.
Awesome. Well, seriously, thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate, you being on the podcast. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's been great. Thanks.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Mix and Matchbox. I'm your host, Brent Feldman. We will be back soon with more content. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.